So, I mean, the petrification, right? Oh my god, I'm whipping out the paint, guys. We're whipping out the paint. Fixes for petrification, right? Make an arrow here. That's an arrow, guys, okay? Number one fix that we really talked about, which I think is a great fix, we mentioned this a little bit earlier, obviously, when we got into this whole discussion, was make it so timer won't go down to teleport out of dungeon if sitting in Petri. This is way too big. Oh my gosh. That could be a fix for it, right? Because whenever you sit in a petrification flask, as we saw in those clips, you can't just teleport out while sitting in a petrification, because the petrification flask makes you immune to everything for a minute. You pop 2 of them, you get teleported out no matter what, right? That could be a very, very, very good fix. I think it would make it so it wouldn't really inhibit any other sort of gameplay. It wouldn't really make it a different thing with the teleporting out of the ghetto heart thing. It would just literally make it so you can't sit in a Petri and get teleported out without dying. Are people mad at Petri because 4 people died instead of 40? Well, I think the petrification... it's a weird thing. I think the endgame hardcore would be more scary in a way, and it would be more fun without it, right? Number 2 is put petrification on a cooldown together with normal potions. 2 minutes. Right, so whenever you pop a petrification flask, there would be a cooldown as if there would be on a normal healing pot or a normal, what is it called, a mana potion and so forth, right? So if you pop a mana potion, you can petrification. The bad thing about this is that people would just like, you know, play... That will fix the flask infinite mana meme. Yeah, it would fix the... spamming, what is it called, distilled wisdom as mana pot, right? It will make it so you can't just spam a mana pot, distilled wisdom as a mana pot, but it would also make it so people play a little bit different. If you fix it according to number 1, you need to fix more fixes because nobody will use it. If you've just fixed it according to number 1, it need no more fixes because nobody will use it. Yeah, I think number 1 is the best fix. It literally is, but people would play differently to still Petri out. Right, this would change the gameplay a lot. Would change a lot of fundamentals, right? If you do any of these, you just get mage portals every pull, and if you fix that, you just get the pulls back to evade every pull. People are still dying and making more risk with Petri as it is. Well, the thing about like a portal, if you I get what you mean. If you put a portal before you pull a boss, that portal will stay up for a minute, and then you have to be able to get out within that 1 minute, right? Unless you want to have like a mage outside of the group and then putting a portal as he's not in combat, unless he does get into combat, right? You can't remove the teleport from dungeon because it means your groups get griefed. Yes, and that's why this fix is good, because fix number 3 is remove Ghetto Hearth, right? But the thing about removing Ghetto Hearth, and the reason why I don't think this is very good, is because it changes too much. And it also makes it so like people can grief. Leaving group and staying in dungeon, right? Because the whole reason why the Ghetto Hearth is in the game is to circumvent the whole... people like leaving dungeon, it's to circumvent griefing, so people can't just leave a dungeon and then stay inside of the dungeon without being in the group, and then make it so like other people can't join the group, because dungeons are limited to 5 people and raids are limited to 40. So let's say you do a BRD, Timmy gets really angry and he leaves the dungeon party, but he stays within the dungeon. Then Timmy is still in the dungeon, and the group that Timmy was playing with no longer can invite other people into the dungeon, right? So that, I think this one is not a good one. This one right here, this is not a good fix, because this just changes too much, right? If you were to fix this whole issue. And we're just talking about a what if, right? It's an interesting conversation to have, and it's something that I think is definitely worthwhile talking a little bit about. I would say this is an okay one, but it also changes a lot of fundamentals, which I don't like. The best thing that I would say to really change this whole thing, if we were to go down a rabbit hole of changing stuff in hardcore, this would definitely be a thing, right? Because this would make it so you still can use Petri if you want in other situations, but you just can't use it to Ghetto Hearth out of a raid or a dungeon if shit hits the fan, right? There's also a 4th option, which is obviously remove Petri completely, right? You know, and this one, yeah, you could do this too, I guess. I actually don't know how much people even used Petri before like the whole hardcore thing became a thing. Oh yeah, there's more things, man. You could also remove Petri completely. I don't know if I really like this, because Petrification Flask is like it's been a part of the game for a very, very long time, and perhaps people use it for some other stuff, right? You can use it to remove your threat and some other things as well. I think the big thing about the Petrification Flask is that it's used to teleport out of dungeons. I think that's the main thing that it's used for, and that's the main thing you would want to fix. The flask itself isn't really an issue, it's only that the way that it's used, right? There's also another thing you can do. A fifth option, Jesus Christ, we're getting a lot of options here, is to make Petri last 30 seconds. But this has a big issue. And that is the fact that people will just use more Petris. You know? So this is not really a fix. It's just like people would just use more of them, right? Longer cooldown, that's a really good fix. That's a really good option as well. So you would put Petrification Flask on a separate cooldown by itself. So instead of having it on a no cooldown at all, as it is right now, you would put it on a really long cooldown, like 5-10 minutes. You can only use one Petri. This would mean that you could still Petri out. Can still Ghetto Hearth. Just no fail-safe with double Petri. So you're still able to do Petrification like Ghetto Hearth. You just can't use two of them. So if you time your Ghetto Hearth incorrectly, you die, right? A combo of 1 and 5 and you're good. So you're suggesting that we use the number 1 here, so we make it so the timer won't go out to the teleport, and you make it Petri 30-minute cooldowns as well. That could be a use case, right? 5 and 6. Yeah, you could use them as well. So make Petri last 30 seconds and then put the cooldown on 5 minutes. Or a 7th. I like that. Change the name of Petrification Flask to Puso Flask. You know, I think that's a pretty good change. How about making Petri making you more immovable by not just porting you even if the timer hits 60? Making you more immovable by not porting you even if the timer hits 60. That's somewhat the same thing as this one, right, Eric, you mean? So like it just wouldn't port you out, right? I personally, I said this, I'm a really big fan of this one. This one right here. Number 1, I think that's a really, really good one. Just so make it so the timer won't go down. I think that's a really, really, really good way of going about it. If like a certain, this is a what if situation. If you know, we would want Petrification to be changed. Number 8, final thing that we could really do. There's obviously a lot more other stuff that you could do. Actually, I mean, there's 2 more. I want to add 2 more, I suppose. Oh my god, there's so many things we can add here. Hold on. Let me just do this. Can't Petri in raid. That's like another one, so you just can't Petri in raid. And the final one, I suppose, that we're gonna add for now is leave it as it is. And just don't change anything, right? Again, this is just a food for thought. It's interesting to talk about as a hardcore enjoyer myself. But yeah, that's really my take on this whole thing. Will they end up changing it? Probably not. But it's definitely been a very, very hot topic lately in the hardcore community. So I figured it would be quite fun to really talk about and have a little bit of a conversation about, right? So yeah.